It's a pleasure to be here. I guess I'm going to speak for 20 or 25 minutes and then look forward to our discussion and chat on the subject afterwards. But I have to start with a quick warning. My team and I, some of whom are here today, love puns and cheesy jokes. Extremely cheesy. Thank you very much. We love cheesy jokes, and so I thought I could structure the next 20 minutes around 6 or 7 cheesy jokes. They're so cheesy that I'm going to need your help in prompting laughter, if that's okay. Anyone has a drum set? Okay, no. So what we can do is I'll signal the prompt. I'll do doop and you do shh. Thank you very much. Let's try it. Doop. Very good. Let's test drive it on a few jokes, quick jokes, okay? What do you call a hippie's wife? A hippie's wife? Mississippi. Doop. Okay, thank you very much. What do you call a dinosaur with an extensive vocabulary? Thesaurus Rex. Doop. Very good. One more. Two hydrogen atoms meet. One says to the other, I lost an electron. And the other one responds, are you sure? The first one says, yes, I'm positive. Okay, very good. This is working just fine. Okay, great. Let's paint a few portraits from the wild together. I want you to imagine ravens, they're like crows, sliding down slippery, snowy slopes on their back, all the way down and flying back up and doing it again and again and again. Bison, they're like buffaloes. They run and they slide on all fours on frozen lakes as they trumpet gleefully and then do it again and again and again. Skating on all fours on frozen frozen lakes. Who likes to snow fight? Like rolling snowballs. Who liked to snow fight when you were kids? Okay, great. Grizzly bears rolling snowballs and having a snow fight on the snow. Who liked, or still does, doing flips when you go to the beach, when you swim in a pool or the sea, to do flips in the water? Who does? You do. You're nodding. Okay, hippos do that in rivers. Dolphins leap out of water and do somersaults and dive back in. Bonobos, they play tag, where they have females chasing males in circular fashion and fondling their testicles. Who used to like to do that when you're... No. Don't answer that question. Okay, good. What do all these animals have in common? What do you think they're doing?
Playing.
Okay, durup. Okay, very good. Very good. They're playing. Let me zoom in on a very interesting scene. There's a scientist by the name of Stuart Brown. He's one of the leading scientists on play. He's the founder of the National Institute for Play. And he's written a book called, guess what?
Play.
Play. Very good. It's called Play. And in it, he gives an account. Thanks, Elia. He gives an account. She turned up the volume. He gives an account of a German photographer taking photographs of huskies in the wild. They're tethered huskies, and this German photographer is taking photographs of them. And out of the blue, a white polar bear shows up on the scene. Now, you know polar bears. We haven't met many, but they're quite vicious. They're quite predatory. And if they're hungry, they can be quite aggressive. Okay, a quick polar bear joke. An Arctic explorer comes face to face with a polar bear. Cognizant of his impending doom, he gets down on his knees and starts to pray. And then he notices that the polar bear kneels right next to him, closes its eyes and starts to pray. And the Arctic explorer stands up and says, it's a miracle, it's a miracle. And the polar bear opens one eye and looks at him and says, please don't speak while I'm saying grace. Drup. Thank you, Farid. All right, so polar bears can be quite predatory. So what happens is that polar bear, looking hungry and aggressive, shows up on the scene. And what would you expect? Usually, nature has programmed us to go into a fight or flight response, right? And most probably the polar bear, having the tuskies being tethered, the polar bear would have probably killed the husky, eaten it, and left the scene. But something very interesting happens instead, according to Stuart Brown. And it's all documented by the German photographer. The husky decides to signal play, to send out a play signal. And if you've had dogs, if you've played with dogs, you've probably seen how dogs actually signal play. They usually bow down, wag their tail, or do other play signals. And that's what the husky did. And guess what? The polar bear responded, reciprocated. And for the next 10 minutes, the polar bear and the husky participated in a dance of play, in rough and tumble, exposing vulnerabilities, nipping and biting at each other. It was beautiful, and it's all recorded, by the way. The polar bear kept coming back to the same scene for a week, to the same spot, to play with the huskies, and then would leave off to decapitate seals and eat them somewhere else. That's extraordinary. Two creatures set in their way by instinct, by nature, who conventionally had one of two options, fight or flight. Because of a little play signal, they took a third possibility, a third path, a third option, and decided to play. What started out as a huge differential of power between a very powerful polar bear and a tethered husky, that differential of power was leveled by play, and they could just play together in a mutual reciprocity. That's an extraordinary scene. Okay, let's go to the title for a minute that I chose for tonight's presentation. Labradors of the primate world. Okay, a Labrador joke is in order. What do you call a Labrador that decided to become a magician? A Labrador that decided to become a magician. A Labracadabrador. Okay, I need to find better jokes. I guess the crowd is kind of... Okay, great. Labradors. Let's compare Labradors for a minute with wolves. Okay? Look at Labrador puppies and Labrador wolves. They look pretty... Labrador and wolf puppies. Sorry, thank you. Let's look at Labrador puppies and wolf puppies. They look pretty much alike. They even behave pretty much alike. They spend most of their day playing, and physically, their features are pretty much similar. But as they grow older, what happens to the wolf puppies? They change dramatically. Even their physical features change, and they become more and more set in their ways, more and more programmed by their instinct. They stay playful considerably, but they become pack hunters, and they become quite predatory. Whereas Labradors, who has a Labrador? Anyone has a Labrador or plays with a Labrador? You have a Labrador.
Half Labrador.
Well, excellent. They stay playful for life. They look like big puppies, they act like big puppies, and they're one of the most playful creatures ever. Now, to compare these two species, wolves and Labradors, there's a very interesting concept that helps us understand the difference between them. It's called neoteny. Anyone come across this concept? You have. Okay. I'll try to define it accurately then. I was just going to make stuff up. Neoteny actually indicates how much a certain animal or species retains into adulthood features from its immature or juvenile past. So how much actually an adult animal remains childish. So if I want to compare Labradors with wolves, which one is more neotenous? Labradors, because they remain playful, childlike, far into adulthood as opposed to wolves. So neoteny is a concept that helps us understand how species compare in regards to how much they retain juvenile features into adulthood. Now here's the kicker. Guess who is the most neotenous creature on Earth? Yes, man and woman, yes, sure. Yeah. I thought I needed to be politically correct, but I guess... Okay, sure. So human beings, yes, we are the most neotenous. So let's go back to the title, Labradors of the primate world. By the way, what do you call an exploding ape? What do you call an exploding ape? A baboon. Thank you very much. See, it's still working. I'm still hanging in there. Okay. You like that one? Okay, Labradors of the primate world. Who do you think I'm referring to with that title? Human beings, very good. We are the Labradors of the primate world. We are the most neotenous amongst creatures, which means we are the most plastic, we're the most flexible, we're the most supple amongst all of creatures. We can actually go beyond the grip of instinct more than any other creature. This feature, I think, was captured beautifully by a 15th century Florentine Renaissance man and humanist by the name of Pico della Mirandola. If you've taken cultural studies or civilization sequence or anything similar to those, you've probably had to read his oration on the dignity of man. Pico was an Italian philosopher and Renaissance man, and he likened human beings to chameleons because we are so flexible and we can assume any form. And then he gives in his oration a beautiful account, very poetic, albeit, a beautiful account of how God created human beings, man. I can say that comfortably now. How God created man. He says God created all the creatures based on specific forms. Every creature had a set form that it was an image of. Even the angels, the perfect beings, according to Pico, were created against a certain form for angels. And then when God almost finished his creation, or her creation, he decided, or she decided, to make man or woman. Okay, I'll stop doing this. It's going to be annoying. He decided to make man, and what he did is he took all the forms and molded them into man, making man the most multiform creature on this planet. And then Pico says this is what makes human beings so unique and so perfect, more perfect than the angels, because they can ascend to the level of the astral beings and the angels, and they can descend to the level of the brutes and the animals, and no other creature can do this. And I think Pico had a hunch about neoteny in some sense. He saw how flexible, plastic, and supple human beings are. And biologists today, as well as biological anthropologists, believe that it is our continuous childish, immature features that we retain into adulthood that make us this flexible and this supple, which is something beautiful. Look at human beings when they are infants, and look at apes. We have similar features. We look so much alike. But then apes grow up, and so much changes. Their skull configuration, their body, their extremities, they transform. But human beings kind of retain a lifelong baby face. We all have baby faces. We can pride ourselves for that. We retain sort of a baby face, and we are forever young. We retain this childish ability to these childish features, both physical and behavioral and psychic, well into adulthood. So that's something wonderful. Actually, there's a psychologist by the name of Erik Erikson, if you've heard of him. He was one of Freud's disciples, but then, like many others, took a different path. Erikson says it is human to have a long childhood. It is civilized to have an even longer childhood, thus glorifying the idea that we carry childhood in a protracted way well into adulthood, and that's what gives us our uniqueness amongst all other beings. In fact, so many cultural anthropologists believe that play is at the heart of culture and cultural production. Okay, great. Now this begs the following question. Why is it so much that so many societies around the world regard play as the opposite of work, regard play as the opposite of being serious, relegate play to only childish, infantile, unserious activities? Why is it that we do that? Where time and again, in the 21st century, so many people remind us that play is at the heart of the epitome of our creativity, innovation, and cultural production. Well, one of the answers, one of the culprits of this is our educational system. Think about it. The minute we send our kids to school, they get trained to believe that play and work are opposites. Think about it. We reward serious work amongst children by giving them what? Playtime afterwards. If you do your homework, if you sit still in the class and listen and don't fidget at all, you can have some playtime. And we actually punish them by denying them playtime if they don't do serious work. So from the onset, from early on, we train our children to think that play and work are mutual opposites, are mutually exclusive. Whereas time and again, we hear of accounts of great achievers around the world, artists, mathematicians, scientists, and entrepreneurs, speaking about their laboratories as their personal sandpits, speaking about their studios as their personal sandpits where they feel creative and playful the most. Entrepreneurs, Steve Jobs used to speak of the Macintosh team as the most expensive sand pit, or in which he played with other people. So play and work are not mutually exclusive. Play is not the opposite of work. In fact, Stuart Brown, the person I mentioned earlier, says the opposite of play is not work, it's depression. The opposite of play is not work, it is depression. So, okay, let's zoom in on Beirut right now. A couple of years back, a few people and I, some of whom are here today, decided to explore this idea of how play can be used to actually leverage certain abilities we have, like creativity, innovation, resilience, and joy, to enhance work. And since I work in education, basically, we decided to explore how play can help teachers become better teachers, basically. And what we did is we used drama as a medium for engaging teachers with play in order to enhance their creativity, resilience, as well as enjoyment and responsiveness while they teach. So for 7 Saturdays last year, or a year and a half ago, for 7 Saturdays we invited 18 teachers, pre-service, beginning, and experience, to come to LAU, where I teach, and for 7 Saturdays we played with them for hours. We used games from different literature, but mainly from Augusto Boal's Theater of the Oppressed, if anyone is familiar with Augusto Boal, Theater of the Oppressed, or Forum Theater. We adapted some of these games and we played with these teachers for hours every Saturday. And we were really surprised. We saw so much come out of these teachers. It was fascinating. The teachers, their accounts demonstrated that they were able to think more creatively, more spontaneously, become better risk takers, see opportunity where it apparently didn't exist, and they enjoyed and felt immersed in what they were doing. Based on these findings, as well as the literature that we've been engaging with as well, we found out that we can take play also out of the classroom into many other professions. And currently we're exploring how play can actually help designers, health professionals and practitioners, social workers, among many others, enhance their creativity, enhance their work, their well-being as well within their workspace and beyond. And we are not pioneers in that. So many people are doing the same. The National Institute for Play, founded by Stuart Brown, is trying to see how play plus science can transform the world. Stanford, the famous design school at Stanford, now launched a course called From Play to Design. And so many others are exploring the superpower that we apparently have as human beings and that we retain into adulthood, but it gets beaten out of us by society, how it can actually be leveraged in order to unleash these hidden powers that we all have in order to engage with 21st century problems that we haven't been able to solve yet. So there's so much work being done on these fronts, and there's so much yet to explore. I will end on a couple of quotes and look forward for the Q&A or discussion session afterwards. But I haven't memorized these quotes, so I'm going to have to read them from a little cheat sheet. The first is by Stuart Brown. He says, "If we let the play drive express itself well into adulthood, as we are built to do, we find opportunities to play everywhere. The brain keeps developing, adapting, learning about the world, and finding new ways to enjoy it. If we stop playing, we share the fate of all animals that grow out of play. Our behavior becomes fixed, We are not interested in new and different things. We find fewer opportunities to take pleasure in the world around us. He ends by saying, basically, when we stop playing, we start dying. And the other quote is not about play, it's about children. It's by the famous educational reformer Maria Montessori, the founder of the Montessori school. She wrote a very seminal text called The Absorbent Mind. And in the introduction, she says the following. It's not related to play, but I'd like to extend it to play. And I quote, "The child's true constructive energy, a dynamic power, has remained unnoticed for thousands of years. Just as men have trodden the earth and later tilled its surface without thought for the immense wealth hidden in its depths, so the men of our day make progress after progress in civilized life without noticing the treasures that lie hidden in the psychic world of infancy." The treasures that lie hidden, we haven't discovered these treasures yet, according to Montessori. And I'd like to extend that to play. I think hidden deep in our psychic treasures is our ability to play and to use play to unleash so many abilities we have in order to deal with 21st century problems and challenges. So basically what my team and I believe is that play seriously works. I'll end on a joke and then we can replenish our drinks and have a little Q&A. So if you decide to be playful in an elevator by breaking wind, by farting, if you decide to be playful in an elevator by farting, it's fine, it's cool, but just remember, it's still wrong on so many different levels. Durup. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.